So I'm going to be explaining how to write the discussion and conclusion section of your scientific report. It's very important that when you're going through this section here in the recording that you've got your marking criteria or marking rubric in front of you. I'm going to go through each of these points in this criteria and talk about what they mean. So first thing in the discussion section, we're going to try and avoid failing. So what key elements need to be included to avoid a fail? First thing, we need to restate the key findings of the results using quantitative data. So this is similar to the results section, but it's very brief. It just readdresses what the actual findings were. And in this section here, we've got the findings of the present experiment are in line with Higgs law, showing increased reaction time with the increased choice, i.e. reaction time increased from this to this to this for the 0, 1, 2 bit. And we'd see the same for the second parts of our findings down below. Very much a key statement of restating what the key findings are. The second thing is we need to report key findings of a similar scientific study. So somewhere in our discussion and conclusion section, we need to show what the data is or show what the findings are of another study. This is done many times in this section. Probably the first and easiest to find here is we've got a section that reads, there are a variety of studies examining Higgs law which show similar findings. One such investigation is blah, blah, blah. And there's an example of showing the results from a similar finding or similar study to the study that I have. Final thing we'll look at to avoid the past is we need to address an overall conclusion. So somewhere towards the end or at the end of the discussion section, we'll have a heading saying conclusion, and it concludes overall what we're seeing in our discussion section. As we move up to the credit pass section, we need to firstly compare or contrast the key findings of this experiment using qualitative findings from the scientific literature. So comparing, we're looking for these comparing words. So for starters, the first sign of this comparison reads in that first sentence we've got, or this first paragraph that we're looking at before. For starters, it says that there are a variety of studies examining Higgs law which show similar findings. There's the first comparison, and here's a couple of different journal article studies. One such investigation uses this. So again, first we've got similar. Then we actually see it just about in every paragraph. Similar results can also be seen in another study, blah, blah, blah. And we go, and then finally there's some contrasting results later on in this discussion. But that's what we're talking about. We want to know, are they similar, are they different, how are they similar and different, just generally to pass this particular section of the report. The next thing we've got demonstrating links between the findings. This is probably one of the hardest sections to talk about because you can demonstrate links in a variety of different settings. The first link, if we look at this right here, that's actually a linking statement between my results that I've got up here. This is above it, I'm talking specifically about my results, but below it, I'm talking about someone else's results. So there are a variety of studies examining Higgs law which show similar findings. One such investigation is da da da. Straight away, that's a link between my two sentences or two statements. Another example of a good link we might be able to see if I scroll down towards the end. We've got, so far it's all talking about similar, 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 and then I come down here and it says despite a similar, so despite a similar trend, that's the link there between the previous, in increase between the two investigations, someone showed a significantly greater increase than someone else. Again, the link is this first section here. It's saying, I want to talk about something different. Rather than just talking about something different, I'm linking it by saying, despite a similar trend, this is how they're different. Straight away, there's a link. I haven't got two standalone paragraphs. I've got one paragraph linked with a previous paragraph. When the final point in this credit pass section is referring to the conclusion addressing the collective findings. So what I would expect to see in this conclusion is it's not just referring to my data. If that was the case, this would probably be only a sentence, maybe too long. It's somewhere in here I'm addressing what else has been shown in this discussion. Otherwise, I'd just be restating my findings again. I'm not restating them again. I'm restating some of my findings and then talking about something else in there as well, something else that's going on in this information preceding it. As we move up into the distinction section of our discussion conclusion, the first element we've got there is compare, contrast key findings of the experiment to quantitative findings from the literature. This is really done well when your results are set up well. So when you've done a good job of that quantitative examples in the results, this section here becomes a whole lot easier to do. So an example of that, we've got the experiment results also revealed a 45% higher reaction time during the low. So straight away I've got some numbers in there. My results were 45% higher during a certain condition. Right, now I'm going to compare that. In this statement down here, when you look at this, it says, it's talking about someone else's study now. It's saying these results show a 78% reduction in reaction time. These results are consistent with the increase in reaction time during this condition. Classic example of, here's my percentages that I've worked out. Here's some other studies' percentages that have been worked out. Now I'm going to say, are they moving in the same direction? Is one more than the other? I can use this in a whole host of ways. Why this is difficult is because these numbers are rarely in no reports. I had to work out mine by looking at the data, and I had to work out theirs by looking at the data as well, because they're not likely to state it. Remember, the report that they're writing is for a different purpose. So in order to get this box ticked, I really had to do a lot of investigation, look at some raw data and say, their numbers have moved. Has that moved more than mine, less than mine? Is it moving in the same direction as mine? I'm going to try and quantify this by putting a number on it. Now, when we talk, the final thing, conclusion is drawn from evidence-based findings. It's another hard one here because essentially what I need to do is, in my discussion, I need to not only here talk about, what everything's found, but is my conclusion actually just what I found, or is it in line with the whole body of information? So here I've got the results from the experiment are consistent with other Higgs law experiments. Straight away, that's talking about other experiments. I'm starting my conclusion with reference to evidence, so it's in line with the other evidence for increase in reaction time. However, in contrast to Higgs law relationship between reaction time and increases in bits does not always increase logarithmically. Straight away there, that is me concluding with evidence to the findings. So what I'm saying is, in comparison to the findings, mine is moving, it's heading in the same direction, but not at the same rate as some other things that I've read. Straight away, that's where I get my conclusion is drawn from the evidence. My conclusion is actually based on some other studies and not just my information. And I haven't just gone my information, their information. I've intertwined them both. That is a really good conclusion. The final section in this discussion and conclusion section, the high distinction section reads very similar to the distinction section, with the exception of the one word which keeps popping up here, which is the multiple themes. And the word themes, again, is referring to an argument, either two sides to an argument or two different facets of the same argument. When we're talking about our reports, we tend to be talking about our primary findings and our secondary findings. So the example here is, if I really went through and looked at the at what's in these paragraphs, I would very much find the same types of occurrences happening. The first part or section or half of this discussion would be referring to the just the fact that reaction time is increasing. So if you were to read this is just talking about reaction time increasing. If you read this section above it, it's also just talking about reaction time increasing with the different choices, comparing mine with others, right? That's one theme, that's one facet. But when I look down the bottom, I'm saying the experiment also revealed high reaction time for a low compatibility. That's a whole different, we're talking about something completely different now. The first one was just more choices equals slower. Now I'm talking about how does, low versus high reflect. And then I've gone through the whole process again, comparing the evidence to what other people have found. That's a second theme. And in this example, it's not one argument versus another. It's just two separate sets of results that I'm discussing in the complete full detail. That's what high distinction looks like in the discussion section. In the conclusion, the same thing applies. Because I've got two themes carrying down, I need to address both themes in my conclusion. So if you look at the first half of this conclusion, it's purely talking about my results and in line with the literature and how reaction time is increasing. It's increasing in line with the literature. The second part of the conclusion is very much focused on my second series of results. This is talking about the arrangement or the compatibility. That's my second results in this. So what this is trying to say is every single scientific report is going to have more than one result. There's always one that stands out. There's always one main result that you're looking at, but there's always going to be something else you can talk about. And if you can talk about that other thing with references to literature as well, that's how you get the high distinction for this level.